State of Decay 2 is one of the most fun gaming experiences I've ever had. Combat, looting, strategy, and emotional investment. Something that alludes to all four of these strengths is the survivors themselves and their relationship with the player. But first, a closer look. As your survivors do their actions, they level up 4 abilities, and each of these 4 abilities have 4 specializations within. These specializations vary and can offer different skills to the survivor, thus making each of them even more distinct. The problem is, I forget what survivor does what and then don't capitalize on their strengths. So, I put pen to paper and came up with 9 unique classes. I swear I didn't mean for that to happen, it only dawned on me while writing this. Also, I am including Talon Contractors as a separate class, so maybe I should say 8 classes. But in terms of survivor builds, there are 256 possible combinations you can make when not taking into consideration the 5th skill, but I'd argue that my 8 are the most optimal. Of course, any class, or build, can do the core State of Decay 2 gameplay loop of fight, loot and rest, but they'll do it differently and they'll have different playstyles and actions at your disposal. Some are better at plague heart assault, others are better at general scavenging or crowd control. The classes have been colour coded so they can be identified easily from the community page, and when I select that survivor, I know what I'm playing with and can make the most of it. Ultimately, these classes are me trying to find the most rewarding synergies as possible to maximise efficiency and chances of survival. The 5th skill is by and large irrelevant and should be about the community rather than the individual survivor anyway. The headwear relates to the 5th skill for my own reference. Certain traits might also synergise very nicely with some of these classes, but at this point that's taking it too far, even for me. Favourable traits might influence what build the survivor gets, but good luck with the good luck of rolling good traits. This video is just me sharing my survivor builds for the hell of it. But first, I'll need to give a quick overview of the 16 possible specifications. The cardio skill is first. Of the 4 specializations, backpacking is likely the boring but practical choice. Backpacking increases stamina and carry capacity, the bread and butter of everyday State of Decay 2 activities. The marathon and powerhouse specializations are both decent choices, if rather niche by comparison, although they synergize very well with certain other specializations. Acrobatics never really interested me. It's just too situational and thus doesn't appear on any of my classes. I know it got buffed at one point, but I never really bothered to go back and check it. The Wits skill is by far my favourite. There's a lot to be said about all 4 Wits specialisations: resourcefulness, scouting, discipline and stealth. I know stealth is a somewhat polarising choice amongst the State of Decay 2 community, but I have a place for it. I have a place for all of them. So much so that the Wits specialisations are equally presented amongst my 8 classes. The fighting skill also presents a lot of options. Endurance, with its massive health boost and reduction to injury severity, is the boring but practical choice here, and allows the character to keep their melee options open. The remaining 3, close combat, striking and swordplay, all show up in at least one of the builds, but they need a class built around the melee specialisation. I think I've come up with some good ideas though. The last skill is the shooting skill, and it's my least favourite because there's only really 2 options: gunslinging and hunting down a skill trader because you couldn't specialise in gunslinging the first time and now you can edit the skill. That's it. One of the biggest threats is ferals, and gunslinging counters them. It's just that good and I don't need to think about it. Hostile humans are also a major threat and headshots kill them as well. I'll admit I do have a very specific use of the underrated but poorly named sharpshooter specialisation, but the other 2 simply never show up. A shame really, because I could use Assault's increased ammo capacity or Weapon Handling's reduced weapon degradation, but we all know gunslinging is king. A super fast reload and the ability to snap aim to charging hostiles is objectively the best choice. As a result, 7 of the 8 classes use gunslinging. So with all that out of the way, let's meet the team. The Adept. Powerhouse, resourcefulness, endurance, and gunslinging. The Adept is one of the more specialised classes, and their specialty is Plague Heart Assault. As is common knowledge, using the power hit of a heavy melee weapon is the cheapest and most reliable method of Plague Heart destruction, albeit somewhat risky. The power hit comes from unlocking the Powerhouse cardio skill along with several other goodies, including a reduced stamina cost to use melee weapons in the first place. Not that stamina is a problem during a Plague Heart Assault. Crisps if you're poor, Red Bull if you're middle, and amphetamine if you're rich. With the resourcefulness Wits Skill, how many of these stamina restorers take up one inventory slot in the Adept's loadout is increased, thanks to the consumables weighing 70% less. This allows easier chaining of Plague Heart's assaults if the initial assault goes well. The same goes for the ever-beloved Molotov cocktails. You might not need so much stackable health restorers or plague cure, unless you're as reckless as me, but the option is there. As I've said before, I hate this inventory system, but you must work with what you're given. The Adept is the only build that really uses heavy melee weapons, and even then I don't use heavy melee when not on a Plague Heart Assault run. For many reasons I just don't find them worth it, but the executability is great for rogue zombies. In any case, my favourite is the Beetle Mallet, weighing 25 pounds. If it doesn't outright kill the target, it's a guaranteed knockdown, even for ferals, and as the zombie is dazed on the floor, they can be executed or burned safely. It's also worth remembering that the heavy execution swings the mallet around, further knocking down any other zombies that rush you. I know some players like to use the dropkick ability to stun and execute ferals, but I never do. They typically show up in trios, so I do my typical climb on a car and shoot strategy. I also don't make the most out of this class's grapple ability. I see other players put it to great use, but I just never bothered with it. Anyway, the Adept will take a heavy beating while assaulting Plague Hearts, so the high health and low injury severity of endurance are useful. Any gun is fine to use, and the Adept needs no special equipment really. One final caveat is the increased crossbow recovery of the resourcefulness Wits specialisation. I hate crossbows because they only hold one shot and are slow firing, but the Echo X3 repeating crossbow isn't such a bad choice for sneakiness and plague sample farming. It holds 10 shots, weighs 5 pounds, and no one else is going to use it, so the Adept can have complete access. The Sentinel. Backpacking, scouting, striking, and sharpshooting. The Sentinel is another class that one might consider over-specialised, but when that specialisation is crowd control, you have a lot of fun. This is the only class not to use the gunslinging shooting specialisation in lieu of the sharpshooting specialisation. And why is that? Shotguns. Given the shotgun shoots out multiple pellets and the sharpshooting specialisation gives greater ballistic piercing, this class can absolutely shred large hordes of incoming enemies, leaving zombies dead or incapacitated easily. You don't need snap aim for this scattergun approach. Now, I value suppressors a lot. Typically, if a gun kills one zombie but summons 2 more, it's not a good gun, and since shotguns can't be suppressed, they're almost useless. But the Silence Restored Echo Shotgun, 9 pounds and 7 shots, mitigates this problem slightly. Other heavy-duty assault shotguns like the Kodiak XL, 12.5 pounds 30 shots, and the DevGru X12 Infiltrator, 12 pounds 30 shots, and the Red Talon RTX Cyclone, 5.5 pounds 8 shots and takes up the sidearm slot, and the AA12, 15.5 pounds 20 shots, are just so powerful you can't help but love them even if they do summon hordes. Besides, no one else is going to use those shotgun shells, so the Sentinel might as well. The Scouting Wits skill prevents ambushes resulting from making too much noise, and backpacking is just a practical choice. The final part of the build is striking. The idea was that should the shotgun run out of ammo, you can fall back on striking to keep a crowd at bay. Like with the Adept, the knockdown stat is key, so the Network's Danworth Slugger or Red Talon's Clio Great Hammer, Mace or Warhammer are my go-to choices. The Cricket Bat from the Fearsome Footage Pack and the RTX Crusher also have decent stats. And then there's the Titan Bat, the Persian Meal, and the Championship Bat. There are loads of choices, so let me know if there are any more good ones. One last experiment is using 44 revolvers with the Clio Tumbler. The Clio Tumbler causes the bullets to be fragmented just like a shotgun shell, and the Sentinel might be able to take advantage of that. However, this will need more experimenting, but as I've said twice before now, no one else uses the 44 ammo type, so go for it. The Sentinel's overall usefulness took a hit when base sieges became much rarer, but in any case, between shredding shotguns and brutal blunt weapons, the Sentinel prides itself on never being overwhelmed like other builds can be. The Talon Contractor. The Talon Contractor is very limited in customization, so I just made it its own separate build. I'd argue these units are overpowered and take some of the tension out of the game, but they're still a lot of fun to use, and heartbreaking to lose knowing you'll need to play more Daybreak to replace them. There's not much else to the Contractors, and I typically don't hire them. They have almost every possible specialisation in one, so they don't even count towards the 256 possible combinations anyway. But this does give me a chance to discuss some of them. Quick question. What do you think is the worst ammo type? I'm sure if you're a veteran you've already given it some thought. I'd say the worst ammo type is the 44 rounds. Most guns that use 44 rounds can't be silenced, and the ones that can just fire too slowly. I never use bolt action weapons either, as they also fire too slowly. In Lethal Zone, you'll be up against hordes, so you'll need something more reliable. Maybe the 44 can be revived via the Sentinel as described earlier, but that aside, I never use them. The 357 rounds and shotgun shells aren't very good either, but there are choices for those guns. A silencer is essential, so excluding one makes it likely the gun will be broken down for parts. Doing more damage isn't useful in SOD 2 because most enemies die in one gunslinger headshot anyway. The exception is the 50 caliber to use on juggernauts, but even that is very niche. As is, you don't typically shoot plague hearts, and hostile humans are almost as vulnerable to gunslinging as the Zeds are. I know I'm getting some weights and stats wrong here and there. I often forget to take off the suppressor when measuring the weight. The advanced suppressor weighs 0.5 pounds, and I typically have them attached to any gun that doesn't have a built-in silencer. Two favourites of mine are the MP5XT and the restored Echo SMG. Talon Contractors have both swordplay and striking as well. I don't know the exact maths regarding knockdown and lethality. I can talk about it a bit with the next class. The Tempest. Powerhouse, discipline, swordplay and gunslinging. The Tempest is made completely for swordplay. This is the bread and butter of this build. The lethality stat is king on these weapons to allow the Tempest to cut through as many hordes as possible. So the best weapon is probably Red Talon's Clio Longblade, but that might be too rare and or overpowered. So the Echo 2 Mamba, 2 pounds, and the Katana Machete, 3 pounds but hardier, are good enough. There are other decently lethal choices, the Bastard of Bellowwood, the Ceremonial Bayonet, or the unusual Ice Axe from the Bundle Up pack. The Ice Axe is less lethal than the others, but is outstanding in other statistics. Speed, ease of use, weighs half a pound, and highly durable, making it one of the best weapons to equip on a Tempest. The relatively common Parang is about as lethal as the best of them, but might be outclassed by the rarer Bowie Machete. The harder to use but hardier to wield Gladius is also a decent choice, and the fast-cutting but very fragile Ancestral Talwar also does the job. I don't really use the leg sweep, and 100% lethality on a bladed weapon doesn't guarantee a kill in one hit. I think 100% knockdown guarantees a knockdown, but I'll need to check more. Nevertheless, more lethality is always good. I'm sure I'm missing other good weapons, so please share if you know any. Powerhouse ensures that the cost for swinging the bladed weapon is lowered by 25%, and Discipline grants the notoriously fragile bladed weapons 25% more condition, a little extra stamina, and a small gain to stamina upon kill to hopefully prevent any stamina depletion during the fight. All the more reason lethality is the main stat for this type of weapon. But I will never stop hating the stupid backswing. there's a 50% chance you'll just give the zombie a free hit, and your own rhythm will be interrupted. This just isn't practical. The gunslinger skill is just something to keep in backup. Bladed weapons aren't very good against ferals after all. But the gun for the Tempest should be somewhat light to prevent or at least delay over-encumberment and thus jeopardise the stamina pool. My favourite just might be the Prepper's 1022. The quest to get it is irritating, but 50 shots of cheap 22 bullets and only weighing 6.5 pounds makes it a darn good gun. Other choices include the Mac 10, slightly lighter at 6 pounds, but with only 30 rounds of a 45mm clip in the sidearm slot, and the M4 CQBR Mob Stopper, 5.5 pounds with a 40-round clip of 5.56 bullets. If you want to go lighter, perhaps the choice gun is the restored Echo S1 revolver. It's a silenced revolver, meaning it's quiet and will never break. Another is the OSS Silent Knight, which, although also is a silent revolver, it weighs a hefty 4 pounds instead of 3.5, uses 45 ammo instead of the much more common 22, and only has 6 shots instead of 8. Either way, you'll need to dedicate a slot to extra ammo. There are a lot of other medium-weight guns to choose for the Tempest, but one final weapon that I feel is criminally overlooked is the MPX submachine gun. It weighs 6.5 pounds and only has a 30-round magazine, so it's rather average, but I'm pretty sure it's the only rapid-fire gun that can be silenced whilst using .357 caliber bullets. No one else is going to use those rounds, so this will prevent eating into the ammo pool of other survivors. That's just a little bonus I like. Like with the Adept, I don't use the gimmicky aspects of the powerhouse specialisation, although perhaps I should. I've seen what other players can do with it, I just never bothered to learn. As is, the Tempest cuts through everyone just fine, and you can even get the extra light carry capacity from Discipline. The Marauder. Marathon, stealth, close combat, gunslinging. The Marauder is the first of 2 classes I've designated Scout. The build and theories behind these 2 Scouts are very similar, and the only real difference is the Wits specialisation. For the Marauder, it's about stealth. But first, the synergising skills of the basic Scout. It all revolves around the free light sprint feature courtesy of the Marathon cardio skill. It can't be overstated how useful this is. Being able to regain your stamina whilst running is borderline broken, and SOD 2 players want to take advantage of it. Obviously, anything that keeps carry capacity low will keep the survivor lightly encumbered for longer. The most obvious is to not hold a melee weapon. Most decent melee weapons weigh 2 to 4 pounds, so simply specialising in close combat frees up that much weight. The second is carrying the lightest firearm reasonable. The Marauder will have to choose something especially light so they can keep the light encumber as much as they can. Normally I don't like guns that have a clip smaller than 30 shots because you'll want a full clip of ammo to allow you to take down maybe 3 trios of ferals safely before you need to return to reload. Again, I hate the inventory system and I don't like a slot being used for spare ammo, but this is the best choice for the Marauder. Maybe the Tempest's revolvers, but perhaps they're too heavy. At this point, pistols start to look appealing, but which one? What I usually find most important is clip size and then weight. Damage is a non-issue because, as I've said, most enemies die in one headshot, and accuracy and control are overwritten by the gunslinging shooter specialisation, so it can also be ignored. Weight is something that needs to be considered for this class, and quietness is essential, so always use a suppressor. The durability stat is a pain if you're not using a revolver, but can by and large be ignored. Just be sure to repair your gun before you head out. Regardless, I wouldn't bother with a pistol that has a clip of 9 or less. The Microdot PPK and the Target MK3 are some of the lightest at 1.5 pounds, without suppressors, and they use the cheap 22 caliber bullets, but the clip size is only 10. The Checkmate pistol from the Trifecta pack weighs 2 pounds and has a 26 bullet clip using 9mm bullets. If that's a little too hard to find, the P7 Pro weighs 2.7 pounds with a clip of 25 9mm shots, and the M17 weighs 2.4 pounds with a clip of 20 9mm shots. It all depends on what you want. Gun aside, the Marauder's backpack also matters. The 8-slot backpacks weigh 12 or 8 pounds, which will push you very close to medium encumber and thus lose the free run ability. The army backpack weighs 7.5 pounds, but it's still too heavy to synergize. The choice is between the ultralight backpack, which has 6 slots and weighs 0.1 pounds, or the trifecta backpack, which has 7 slots and weighs 1 pound. I prefer the latter because it reduces the amount of time looting, but that's just a personal choice. These classes are more about safe looting than efficient looting anyway, so 7 slots offset that somewhat. But there are many combinations for what you want. With your lighter weapons and equipment, the result is the Marauder can now dash about while stealthed indefinitely, which is very useful for staying undetected and doing things that need a quieter approach. You can clear areas very safely and confidently with this build, and if things get hot, running away is easy enough if you can sprint without stamina expenditure. Also remember that if you run out of inventory space while scavenging, you can load a melee weapon into the melee slots. God, I hate this inventory system. The Pathfinder. Marathon, Discipline, Close Combat and Gunslinging. The Pathfinder uses the same build as the Marauder but with a different Wits specialisation. This time it's Discipline, which increases light carry capacity, thus ensuring this version of the Scout stays lightly encumbered for longer. It's not unusual to have inventory slots full and still be able to run for free. The same strategies as before apply, but here I feel there's even less reason to use the ultralight backpack when the trifecta backpack is better, given you have more flexibility. And this freedom extends to the gun you can carry. The Pathfinder can even use some submachine guns with more confidence. I feel the best weapon is the Mach 11 Jawbreaker, also from the trifecta pack. With a 32 round clip it's already above average, but a weight of only 3.5 pounds makes it the best choice. It could even pair well with the Marauder given how good it is, although you may want to use the ultralight backpack there. If you can't get your hands on a Mach 11 Jawbreaker, another favourite is the Trailblazer S2K from the Go Pack. It has the standard 30 round clip and is slightly heavier at 4.8 pounds, but it'll do just fine. These two scout classes benefit a lot from the trifecta bounty pack, so be sure to pick up lots of spares when it comes around. I have plenty hidden away if you want to hit me up. The Mach 11 has no zoom scope, but that's not an issue. Run up to your targets, gunslinger them all, then run away while restoring the stamina. Rinse repeat all over the map. But combat with this class isn't really necessary. The Pathfinder is the better scout choice for long distance running. Maybe to run away after a vehicle explosion or fuel depletion, or running to reclaim a vehicle from a fallen friend, or just fetching an extra car for the lot. Infinite running is a powerful feature to keep in your back pocket. Survivor traits that increase the character light carry limit would synergize perfectly with these scout classes, so keep an eye out for them even if they are hard to detect. The Bulldozer. Backpacking, resourcefulness, endurance, gunslinging. The Bulldozer is the first of the final 3 variants on the same class, Recon. Just like with the 2 scouts, these classes are similar except for the Wits Skill. Otherwise, they're the most boring of the builds, with high health and stamina options with the ever-dominant gunslinging for its fast reload and aimbot. The first Recon version focuses on scavenging. With 2 extra carry slots and more stack for each slot, the Bulldozer can clean up. I even synergised 2 of them with the sewing 5th skill to really stack how much they can carry. But both of them died. Blood ferals. Damn it. The Bulldozer is the closest build I have to the heavy, so I'm happy giving them the weightiest weapons. And perhaps the heftiest is the Eternal Guard's Infinite Rage, at 22.5 pounds. As any SOD 2 weapon hunter knows, this monster holds 150 bullets in its clip, which is absolutely bonkers. At the risk of showing my age, maybe it's a shout out to the old RCP-90? The Iger loads the rarer and more expensive 7.62 rounds, but you can't complain with this gun. I like to leave the E-gear with only 50 or so bullets in the clip. That way, if I find any more while scavenging, I can load them into the gun and save a carry slot. Have I mentioned how much I hate the infantry system? The Prepper's AK and the RTX Stormbringer are also good choices given how incredibly rare the E-gear is. The Regulator. Backpacking, stealth, endurance, gunslinging. The Regulator might just be the most dependable and practical choice on my roster. As before, they have high health and stamina, but now with the stealth specialization. This makes the Regulator an infiltrator class with opening locked doors, lower search crash chance, reduced enemy sight range, and, my favourite, crouch running. So this build is very much a jack of all stats, and what gun you use is completely free. You could opt for the medium light section of the Tempest or the extreme heavy section of the Bulldozer, but there are a bunch of other medium weight guns I like. The Uzi 9mm is absolutely iconic, but if I'm being honest, I only really use it for fashion purposes. Weighing 9 pounds with a 32 bullet clip, it's outclassed by something like the MPX Competition, which only weighs 6.5 pounds with a 40 round clip. What can I say, I'm a sucker for the classics. However, I feel the signature gun of this class should be the legendary Danger Dog PPSH-41. It needs no intro with the SOD 2 Vets, and despite weighing 10 pounds it has a massive 50 round magazine with a built-in silencer. It also uses the relatively cheap 9mm bullets as used by the Uzi and MPX. The Danger Dog is one of the best all-rounders in the game and perfect for regulation. I'm sure I'm missing loads of great guns, so let me know. The Seeker. Backpacking, scouting, endurance, gunslinging. The Seeker rounds off the trio of Recon type builds, but this time with the scouting used for Wits specialization. Bulldozer carries, Regulator creeps, Seeker scans. Seeing unlooted containers from the off is always a nice thing to have, and what's not to like about sensing incoming enemies. The gun durability that comes with scouting is often overlooked, but it's a nice addition. I have a wide selection of guns for the Seeker to use, and maybe some of the other builds can as well. From the 45 caliber pool, we have the Spec Ops Vector SMG and the Doomsday Carbine, both carrying 50 round clips, but the Vector is lighter at 9.5 pounds instead of 11.5. But there are plenty of choices. From the 5.56 caliber pool, the Operator's M4A1 weighs 10 pounds and has a 50 round clip, whilst the AKSU 74U Valentine is slightly lighter with a smaller clip, 9 pounds and 45 rounds. But both of them are outclassed by the Network's Masterwork Assault Rifle. Even lighter at 8.5 pounds and a staggering 100 round magazine whilst also using the 5.56 rounds, it's one of the best guns in the game. Just as well because Red Talon were looking to have the monopoly on good weapons. The Network's Master is very costly to make though, and is very rare, but I'm sure you'll agree, it's well worth it. And those are my builds I use in State of Decay 2. It does make the pool more rigid, but it helps me get the most out of each survivor. I have one or two experimental builds such as Frost, which is a Tempest meets Pathfinder that exclusively uses the Ice Axe, but that's enough for now. Also, I'm really sick of saying pounds instead of kilograms. But I suppose a zombie apocalypse is best set in a place where citizens have guns, so I'll eat your imperial nonsense for now. But pounds is a currency. An increasingly weak and redundant currency, but whatever. Please let me know if there are any builds you use, and I'll be back with more videos soon.